Someone once asked how to set up Python running in a Linux-like environment within Windows, and how to use VS Code with it. Here we will install Windows Subsystem for Linux, the Windows Terminal, a Ubuntu LTS, Python, and VS Code. We're going to start with a freshly installed Windows. The only thing on this are drivers, and I ran PowerShell once to avoid a PowerShell error that sometimes pops up when you start up Windows Terminal for the first time. So, first thing we need to do is enable the virtual machine platform and Windows Subsystem for Linux Windows features. To enable the Windows feature, click on Start, type Windows Feature, and you'll see this link for Turn Windows Features On or Off. You're going to scroll down and find Virtual Machine Platform and Windows Subsystem for Linux. Once you click on those, it will chug for a moment and require a restart. And there we have it. The features are now installed and ready to be used. So next thing we're going to do is install the Windows Terminal. To do so, we're going to use the Microsoft Store. So we're going to hit the Start menu again and type Microsoft Store. Within the Microsoft Store, we are going to search for Windows Terminal. Click on the first one that's there, and click on Get. Now it's notable that although the application in the Microsoft Store is called Windows Terminal, inside of the Start menu it will just be called Terminal. There we go. Once that's installed, just to make things a little easier, I'm going to hit the Start menu, right-click on Terminal, and Pin to Start, and then make that a little bit easier to find for myself. Next, we're going to run the Windows Terminal, and we are going to, and there's that PowerShell issue that I was mentioning before. So if you happen to see this particular error, we're going to hit the Start menu and type PowerShell and run it. Once it runs once, and you get a prompt like this, you can just close this, and then you can relaunch this. Open the Windows Terminal once again. And there you go. The issue has gone away. It's probable that you won't see that error. I suspect it's just because this is a VM. Once you are in PowerShell, the next thing we're going to do is set the default version of WSL to 2. So all you have to do is do this, WSL-set-default-version space 2, and then WSL update. Oops. --update. It will ask you for permission. You click on yes, and it will download the necessary pieces. If you do this after you have already set up your Ubuntu distro inside of WSL, you'll need to go through an update process, which is slightly different. So best to do this first. All right. Once that's done, we're now going to install Ubuntu. So WSL-install-d Ubuntu 24.04. Ubuntu-24.04. it seems that we got stuck. So I'm going to use Control C to cancel out of this, Control L to clear the screen. We'll use CLS to clear it instead, in fact, and rerun it and see what happens. Well, didn't get stuck that time. Here we go. Wonderful. Feel free to read through this if you need to, or if it interests you. I believe it only pops up the first time you run WSL. And then you have to choose a username. I'm going to use the default one that it provides, which is the same as my Windows username, and a password. It is notable that these do not have to match your Windows username and password, and they'll remain disconnected. If you change a password on one side or the other, they will not synchronize. So just keep that in mind. So here you will now have a fully functional Linux-like environment. The default location is showing /mnt/c. /mnt/c is basically how you get to your C drive if you'd like to reference it from inside of the WSL distribution. If I type cd and hit enter, it takes me back to my home directory. And in my home directory, I'm going to create a new folder called code. mkdir code. Now, I'm going to open up the File Explorer. And I'm going to notice that here in the File Explorer, I now have a new entry called Linux. If I go there, I can see my distributions from WSL, and I can navigate to them. So there, home, my username, and code. And here I will create a brand new text file. Hello. And we will go back to the terminal, type ls, and we can now see code, enter code, and we can now see hello.txt. We will cat hello to drop its contents, and we can see why hello there, the contents. So it is possible to edit files, move files, and interact with them using the Windows file browser. It's notable that the permissions, when you do this, will be a little bit off. So the owner of this is now root. So sometimes you will have permission issues if you do this. So just you have to be aware of those. And occasionally sudo chown my user, the file name, to solve this problem. So just keep that in mind. So at this point, we now have the Linux environment set up, and we can use it here if we so choose. We could technically use Vim or another terminal-based editor and do everything from here. And that's a lot of fun, but we also want to set up VS Code. So the next thing we're going to do is we'll just close out of this terminal, open up our browser, and navigate to code.visualstudio.com. And right in the center will be a download for Windows. Download for Windows will do what it says eventually and give us an installer. Once the installer is ready, we simply have to run it and follow the on-screen instructions. So I'm going to let it go to its default location and accept those default ones. I'm going to allow it to add to my context menus because I find those to be useful, and I'll create a desktop icon too. And install. Now, it is notable that when we run Visual Studio Code, we're going to be using an extension to access Windows Subsystem for Linux, And that extension, it kind of creates a little bubble inside of Windows Subsystem from Linux with respect to plugins, extensions, and the like, that's separate from the outside of it. So the first thing we're going to do after we launch it, and we get through the entry stuff, which is right here, we'll mark as done. You can go through, take your time to go through those if you need to. We're going to go to extensions, and then we're going to search for WSL. Notice we're not installing the Python extension just yet. Once it's installed, this little blue box in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen gives you the ability to connect to remote locations. So right now, because we have the WSL extension, we can do connect to WSL. You could also get others that connect via SSH and other mechanisms, which is very, very useful under different circumstances. The first thing it will do after it connects is it will install the stuff it needs inside of WSL. And immediately after that's done, we're going to have full access to everything from there. I'm going to make this bigger so that we can see the full file menu as well as we just wait for this to install. Great. So the first thing to show off is that if we go to Terminal and New Terminal, you will notice that we are now inside of that WSL distribution that we saw before. So everything that you do inside of VS Code here is now in that context. If I File and then Open Folder, I can choose Code. And then I can create a new file. And if you get this warning, you created the folder, so you can trust the authors, assuming you trust yourself. And that'll go away. You can see hello.txt, which you can open and view. And now that we own it, we can edit it and the like. Or you can right-click and click on New File, and then do hello.py. And you'll notice that down here in the bottom right-hand corner, we now have this recommendation. Do you want to install the recommended Python extension for Microsoft for the Python language? Yes, we would. So we're going to click on Install, and it will install it. It is installing this on the distribution side, so if you are inside of the WSL, so if you might see this again if you open a Python script outside of the Windows Subsystem for Linux context, when that doesn't say WSL on the bottom left-hand corner here. This, I find, does take a minute to install the first time you have to do it, but fortunately you only have to do it once. Meanwhile, while that installs, I'm going to write my script. I'm going to start with the shebang of the script, which in Ubuntu, this is the path that is always used for Python 3. Python 3 is also installed by default in Ubuntu, so we don't have to worry about any of that. And then I'm going to do if name equals main print hello there. And now, once the extension is installed, prior to the extension being installed, this play button in the top right-hand corner will not be present, and that is notable. After the extension is installed, it is there, and when you hit this, it will run the script that you're currently looking at, which can be very useful. You'll notice that it also actually puts the path to Python here, which may or may not be desired. That means it's not leveraging the shebang, so there's some conditions where that could be a little bit weird. What you can also do, though, is you can give it execution permissions right from here. So chmod +x ./hello.py, and then you can run it directly ./hello.py, and there you go. And there you have it. We have Python running in a Linux-like environment within Windows. We have VS Code connected to it and able to be used as an editor, and we've got our extensions to provide syntax highlighting, completion, and all that other stuff. So hope this helps.